Hello all and welcome to Point Counterpoint. This is a program that brings you a series of mini debates between people with contrasting opinions. We are looking back at the 1960s today, a decade described as by New West magazine as the worst of times. It was a decade that started with such promise but ended with such violence and doubt. Our proud nation and its usually stable government were both shaken by explosive confrontations all over America. We landed a man on the moon, but some of our people were starving in the streets. The traditional roles of man and woman were changing too rapidly to save many families, and a war in Southeast Asia dominated our news. A counterculture developed, made up of dissatisfied and the disenfranchised, and the people who felt their voices were no longer being heard. They took to the streets and dropped out, but they were still heard. We remember the 60s for the controversy, the conflict, and the violent disagreement. So let's take a look at these issues of the 1960s, and let's hear the arguments once again that captured America's collective thoughts and energy for the entire decade. The space program caught the imagination of the American people in the challenge to place man on the moon, as John Kennedy authorized the spending of more than $20 billion to launch the Apollo program. There was instant controversy. Could the money be better spent? With us today to debate the proper use of more than $20 billion of American tax money is Leslie Jones, a social worker from Harlem, and Dr. William Bartlett, a representative from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, also known as NASA. Welcome, Ms. Jones and Dr. Bartlett. We'll start our questions with you, Mrs. Jones. Now first, what do you think is wrong with the American priorities?
The American government really has its priorities messed up. If intelligent legislators wanted to get to know America, they would go into the cities, talk to people, sleep over at night in the parks or on the streets. If they did, they would find many places and many ways to spend our tax money wisely. Once our nation has fed the hungry, housed the homeless, saved the dying, given aid and comfort to the many victims of our society, then America can play Buck Rogers and fly endlessly through space.
Come on! Leslie, America is the richest nation in the world. Do you really expect us to believe people are starving in America? I don't see that in the news.
There really is poverty in America. When a transient dies on the streets of Washington, D.C., it's not big news. An elderly couple that dies of exposure because they couldn't pay the fuel bill of $85, they don't make the headlines. A housing project that is condemned, forcing families onto the streets, is of little concern to the media. Why? Poverty and human misery are not pleasant. People don't want to see it, they don't want to deal with it. So, since it is not a popular issue, it doesn't get the media or financial attention.
We're a rich nation. Why not explore space?
The billions of dollars spent by the government on a moon landing could have done so much to help problems here on Earth. A lunar landing won't feed the hungry, care for the elderly, or help the homeless. It's a waste of money.
Do you think that our government is trying to divert our attention from its inability to solve our real problems?
I agree with Eldridge Cleaver, a black militant, who said that the whole space program is nothing but a circus designed to take people's minds off the real problems we face. A columnist in San Francisco called it history's greatest ego trip.
Thank you, Leslie. It makes us wonder if we really do have the things in perspective. Now let's hear the opposite view from Dr. Bartlett. Now, Dr. Bartlett, why shouldn't the space program be singled out as the ideal place to take money from the rich to give to the poor?
It is not fair to single out the space program and the money that we spend. There are different government programs that could be eliminated, but not this one. The attention focused on the Apollo program alone has captured the admiration and attention of the world. Not only is America number one, but it has been America that has made us dream again about human possibility and what the human race is capable of.
Now, give us a historical reason why we should go for it and spend that money for exploration.
Miss Jones says we should clean up our own backyard before we go into space. She says feed and house everyone here and forget about space exploration. Can you imagine if Queen Isabella had decided to take care of food and householding for the poor in Spain instead of funding the Columbus expeditions? Columbus wouldn't have discovered America. Since she was farsighted, the voyages went on, and the discoveries and migrations did more to relieve suffering than any event prior to Columbus.
Other than a nationalist ego trip, is there anything other to benefit justly spending all that money?
The success of the space program has led to a ginormous leap of young people being interested in becoming engineers, scientists, and mathematicians. As you know, when the Russians launched Sputnik in 1958, it showed we were behind them in technology. The investment of American money into the space program has put us on the top again, and our youth has become inspired to further discovery.
Any other benefits?
The photos alone from the first Apollo missions were worth the money spent. For the first time, we have pictures of Earth as a simple brown and blue ball hanging from the heavens. Looking at these pictures, we can all now realize that the Earth has its limits. It's like Adol Stevenson said, we have defined limits. We have to take care of our Earth. It's our home. We must not damage it. These two books, The Population Bomb and The Silent Spring, are told about this problem. But the pictures from our outer space show the problem to the whole world. What a great investment into our future. Now, people will become interested in preserving our environment, stopping pollution, and maintaining national parks.
So, it would be fair to say that the government has decided, at least for the moment, that space exploration is more of a priority than helping its own people?
I know our government cares about the less fortunate. I know Sergeant Shiver, head of the Office of Economic Opportunity, personally, and he keeps me informed about the government's anti-poverty programs. Sure, they need money, but government officials spend tax money where the people say. Most of the tax raised from our government comes from the pockets of middle-class Americans. And they don't want us to know about poverty, but they love the space achievements.
Miss Jones, any final comments? And you, Dr. Bartlett? Anything? $23 billion is a great deal of money. Now we can all ponder intelligently what we should do with that sum. Thank you both sides for your insight.